Welcome to another Open Philosophy video. I'm Dennis Polis. Today we're going to be discussing the problem of free will in relationship to God's divine omniscience. That is, if God is all-knowing, how can we be free? Previously, we saw that free will means that there are real alternatives available to us, real alternatives that are in our power. That this is not a theoretical posit, but a fact of experience. We know, for example, that it's within our power to go or stay, to act or not act, to speak or to be quiet. All of these things are actually in our power in a way that other actions are not in our power. It's not in our power to teleport to the moon or to walk across the ocean. This fact, that there are multiple things within our power at the same time, and that we are the one who decides which of them will become the actual reality, is what we mean by free will, and that is a fact of experience. I illustrated the notion of free will by the analogy of a railroad. Determinists imagine that life is like a single-track railroad. We keep going down the track, and whether it turns right or left or continues straight, we have no choice but to stay on the one track that we started on. Those of us who understand free will, on the other hand, see that there are switches, places where we can choose whether we're going to go right or left, follow this path or that. And beyond them, there are more switches yet again. I've dealt with a number of objections to free will. All of them are based on theory. We've considered the naturalist objection that we're determined by the laws of physics, and we found that physics really has nothing to say about interior processes such as awareness and free will. We considered the possibility that our brain might in some way predetermine our choices, and we found that the processes used to illustrate this are not the kind of conscious processes we use in ethical decision-making. We also considered the possibility that we might be determined by motivation, and we found that we are the ones who weigh our motivations, one versus the others, attending more to one and less to the other by our own choice. Now we're going to consider a different kind of objection, one which is not based on naturalism, but based on theism. And it is the idea that if God knows everything, then He knows in advance of our choices what we will choose. Taking the biblical story of Cain and Abel as an example, if God knows everything, then He knew when Cain was a child that Cain would be attacking and killing his brother Abel. Thus, it is argued, Cain was fated, predetermined, to kill his brother, and so it could not have been his own choice or responsibility that he did so. What's wrong with this line of reasoning? Well, it compares God to us. It assumes that God knows things in advance in the same way that we would know things in advance. We can only know things in advance by using the present state of affairs to predict a future state. For example, if we were to look at this switch, we would see that the train would be going to the right, and if we would look at this switch, we can see that it is set so that the train will be going to the left. The trouble with this kind of prediction is that we don't know that things may not change before the train gets to the switch. A switchman could come and throw the switch in the other direction, and thus our predictions are not necessary, but simply the best guess we have. On the other hand, God does not predict like we do. Rather, He knows what the switchman will do, and so His knowledge is infallible. In fact, that's the entire basis of the objection. God infallibly knows what we will be choosing. But listen to what I just said. God infallibly knows what we will be choosing. It is only because we choose it that God knows it. Suppose that you were the creator of a model railroad. One of your trains, analogous to a human person, comes to a switch and takes one direction versus another. Does your knowledge choose its direction? Of course it doesn't. The person who threw the switch determines the direction of the train, whether you know what he did or not. Your knowledge does not control the choice. Rather, you simply know what was chosen. Ah, but you say, I didn't know in advance and God does. But let's replay the video. Now you know exactly what's going to happen. And still, your knowledge, your advanced knowledge of what is going to happen, does not control the choice that was made. God can only know what we choose because we choose it. If we did not choose it, God would be wrong in thinking that we did. So when God knows what we choose, it's because we choose it. Thank you for watching, and please leave comments.